Hey everybody, it's Rob. I'm back. We're doing another Offsec Proving Grounds practice machine. This time we're doing a machine called LaVita. It is a Linux machine rated as intermediate, and it was a little tricky. I had some trouble with it, but I was able to get through it. So without further ado, you can see I am on Offsec's VPN, and I do have LaVita spun up, and here's the IP address. The first thing that we did was we ran an mmap scan, service version detection, T4, all ports aggressive, and 22 and 80 come back. So it doesn't really give us much else to do other than go visit the website. And it looks like one of these front-end websites that doesn't do much. I tried to see if I could click on some of this stuff, and some of it does work. I thought maybe these are some usernames. So we got Ringo, Rebecca Flex, Johnny Skunk. So we'll see. I don't know, but I made note of those. So typically when I come across one of these websites and I'm not sure what to do next, I typically do some go busting. So we did go busting. It's still going on. I used one of the bigger lists, so it's going to take a while. But what we need has already appeared. You have a bunch of directories, but the one that kind of seems the most interesting here is register. So if we go to register, it takes us to a registration page. And if we register, I'm just going to use test at test.com, password. And I'm going to click register. So, I looked at Wappalizer to see what was running on this machine and everything, and there's a lot on here. I wasn't exactly sure what to do. So what I ended up doing was searching on this right here. This is obviously here for a particular reason. So if you do a search on this app debug equals just like that, there's a lot of discussion around Laravel, which is like a framework for PHP. And also a CVE kept popping up. There were several, but the one that popped up the most was CVE 2021-3129. So if I searched on that, what I came back with was, there were a few, and they all worked. I ended up going with this one for no particular reason. But they're all pretty similar in the sense that they all allow remote code execution. It's just a matter of how they do it and what you have to feed into it. So if we look at this code, there's a bunch of stuff in here. So I think I noticed there was a requirements.txt. So what we're going to probably do with this is we're going to git clone the library. And what I noticed was you may have to run this one several times because it goes through a few iterations, and some of the iterations may not work, and it'll ask you if you want to do the next iteration in the chain. Now, obviously, if the command you execute works, you don't have to, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and see this requirements.txt. If you open that, this is all of the things that it requires. So in this case, it's probably best to git clone the library rather than just download the exploit. So we're going to copy. We're going to go to our home directory. We're going to open a terminal here, and we're going to git clone this particular GitHub library. All right, so now we're going to change directory into CVE. And we're going to do a ls, and we have everything we need there. So because of all the requirements, it requires a Python virtual environment. So obviously we need to do that, which is Python 3, TACM for module, venv for virtual environment, and then .venv is what we're going to call the virtual environment. So we're going to hit enter. Now we have to install the requirements.txt. So we'll do .venv bin pip install tac-r for requirements, and then requirements.txt. Okay, so now we're going to clear the screen. And the way this works, let me see if I can do a help here. Okay, so there's a bunch of stuff that we need here. If you do, it looks for a where the log folder is. You can just Google where Laravel stores the log. That's what I did. So to run this, what we need to do first and foremost is start a listener. And if we go back to the exploit, this is exactly what we're going to run. And we're not going to run it just yet because there's something we have to do on that website. So we're running the exploit in a Python virtual environment. The host is the server that's running the website. We're going to execute netcat bin bash on my IP address back to my attack machine port 80. Now the log file, you can look this up. The only thing I had to change was I changed this to LaVita because I think it's Laravel, and I'm not sure that that was working correctly. So I'm guessing it's LaVita because that's the name of the site, and it seems to work. Maybe you don't even need this. I didn't try it without the log, but I know I had problems when I didn't use when I had it using the default path. So if we go back to the website, we need to turn app debugging on because this exploit takes advantage of the fact that app debug is turned on. Okay, so now that we see that that's enabled, we can go back to our exploit and we can run it. All right, now it says it worked, but let's just check. No, we don't have anything yet. So this is where, would you like to try the next chain? Yes. Now this is promising right here because it's kind of hung up. So if we go back and we look, we have a shell. So the first thing we got to do is what we should do when we need to upgrade our shell, which is Python 3 import bin bash. And we now have a foothold as dub data, okay? So now we're going to try some typical Linux stuff. Nothing in history. Sudo tac-l. Yeah, I don't have a password, so obviously this isn't going to work. And then let's try and find files with the sudo set. You just copy and paste. And I don't see anything crazy there. Now I'm going to tell you, I ran linps, and it really didn't give me a whole lot. If we go to home and we do an ls, there's a skunk. So that's one of the users, they use the last name of one of the users that we saw on the website. If we do an ls and try to cd into skunk, ls, there's a bash history and local.txt. So let's see if we can cat local.txt. Yeah, there's the flag. How about if we cat bash underscore history? I don't remember if I did this or not. Yep, nothing in there. So we have the user flag. What my thoughts were to look, maybe use something like pspy to see if we could find something running as skunk or root that we can potentially take advantage of. If I go back to cd opt ls, there's nothing in there either. So I kind of exhausted all my normal Linux enumeration. And like I said, linps didn't really give me too much, so I'm not even going to run it to save some time on this video. What we're going to do is we're going to get pspy on this computer. So we're going to open a terminal here. We're going to ls, and then we're going to Python 3 module HTTP server on 80. We'll just copy this. Go back to our foothold, and we'll go back to, let's go to cd temp. And then we'll do a wget HTTP. 192.168.45.159 pspy 64. Okay, now we're going to chmod pspy 64. And actually, that is not what we're going to do. We're going to chmod plus x pspy 64. We'll do lsail, and pspy is now executable. So what we're going to do is we're going to run pspy and see what we can see. Now this may take a second. So we're going to be looking for anything running under, I believe it's UID 0, and I'm not sure what the UID for skunk is. I think it's 1001. So we're going to scroll up. Nothing yet. Here we go. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's 1001. It looks like he's running LaVita Artisan. So we definitely need to check that out. This would be skunk, I believe. UID 0 is obviously root. So we need to check out this artisan, okay? So we're going to Control C. I don't know how to get out of pspy. I've never figured that out, how to get out without losing my session. Control Z. No, that didn't do it either. So what we're going to do is we're going to restart our listener. We can kill our web shell. That's why it won't allow us. So it's listening on 80 again. And we're going to come back to the exploit. And we're going to hit Control C. And we're going to run it again. Would you like to? Yes. Let's see what happens. I don't think that worked. Nope. So we're going to have to do it again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say no. And I will probably have to do it one more time. Yep. All right. So we got to rerun our Python update. All right, now we got to go to what PWD are we in? We're at the root, so we want to go to cd var dub. Let's see what's there. HTML, so we want to go into HTML, ls. We want to go into LaVita, ls. Now he was running this artisan command, so let's see what that looks like. lsail. We own this file, so we can write to it. Let's see if we can cat artisan and see what it does, if it's a binary or what. Oh no, this is a script, so we can insert PHP reverse shell into this, I believe. So what we're going to do is open up another terminal. We'll do a netcat on 80. And then the way I chose to do this was to just echo. I tried to do a malicious executable with MSF Venom, but that did not work. I just went to payloads all the things and copied the BSD version of the netcat one-liner payload. And that's what I did. We're just echoing in. We wrapped the OpenBSD version of the netcat one-liner basically in a PHP system wrapper. And we're just pushing that into Artisan, okay? So now I think we just wait and see what happens. Oh, we got a shell. So now hopefully we are skunk and I would keep this other shell open. You're going to need this. So as data, because data, believe it or not, has some rights to certain files that skunk does not. So let's go back to our new shell. Let's do Python shell upgrade here. And we're skunk at Debian. Okay. So now let's see if there's anything in here. Local.txt. So let's cat local.txt. I think we did this already, but here you go again, user flag. So we'll do history. We'll do sudo tac-l. Okay, now here is something we can work with. So if we go to, you can see that skunk can run sudo no password composer in the working directory, right? If we go to GTFObins under composer with sudo, this will work. You're going to have to modify it a bit. You don't really need to do this tf make temp dir, and then you can get rid of this tf. You could just pipe this directly into the composer.json, and then you can ditch this working directory tf and just put the directory that we want this to run in, which artisan is in. Which is the one, it's var www html LaVita. Okay, so we have to run this first command first, and then the second command second. The problem is this is why you need to keep that other shell open. Skunk does not have access to this composer.json. If we look, data does. If we do an ls ail, composer.json is owned by data, and it is not writable by anybody other than data, okay? The owner, okay? So what we're going to need to do is this very first line of this GTFObins, we need to run as data, right? And then the second line we run as skunk. Okay, I hope that's clear. The reason we have to do this is because skunk can't write to this file, and we need to write to this file. We need to tell this file to run this script, and we cannot do that with skunk. So what we're going to do is, just to be safe, as data, we're going to just make a backup of this file just in case we screw up. So we're just basically moving composer.json to composer.json.back, okay? And then what we're going to do is we're going to echo this line into composer.json. Okay, so you see I took all that TF stuff out of this. This is all you need to do, okay? So now if we do an ls ail, composer.json should be back. And it is. So if we cat composer.json, it should have what we put in it. And it does. So now we can go back to the shell as skunk, and we can run the second part, which is what he can do, sudo composer in the working directory, right? So if we look, and we just have to use the full path. That's what I would do. User bin, first of all, you got to do sudo. Otherwise, none of it's going to work. User bin composer. And then we're going to copy this working directory. All I did to this line was replace that $TF with the actual working directory that the composer.json is in, okay? So now when we hit enter, do you want to continue as super user? Yeah, we do. Okay. So now we have a root shell. Let's see if we can do our Python shell upgrade. And we can. So hopefully that was clear. This is one of the first times with GTFObins I had to use two different users to be able to execute this. We have to do that. We don't need to do this first line, and you can get rid of this TF here, okay? All this is doing is setting the directory. You don't need it there. You just leave that off, space, and just have composer.json. Same thing here. Just replace it with the directory that composer.json is in. That's what I did. But the reason dub-dub-data has to write this first is because they own this file, and Skunk does not have the ability to write to it. Then we do the composer part with Skunk because he has sudo no password with composer, and he's able to run it on the composer.json. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. If we go back to our root shell and we cd root, we do an ls cat proof.txt, and there's the flag. So this machine was a little tricky. What we did to exploit this machine was we ran an mmap scan. We saw 80 and 22 were open. We went to 80, didn't really see anything that we could do, so we did go busting, found a register link, registered as a user, noticed there was the ability of the user to turn app debug on or off. All I did was search on that app debug, and Laravel was all over the place. And there were a couple of things that kept popping up. One of them was CVE 2021-3129. So I did a search for an exploit for that CVE in GitHub. I found the one in Josh, what's his name? I just want to give him credit. Joshua Vanderpool. Very well written exploit. You have to run it a couple of times. Got a shell. Did all our normal Linux enumeration. Even linps really didn't help very much, but when we ran pspy, we saw that Skunk was running Artisan on a regular basis to, I guess, to clean up pictures or whatever. We inserted a reverse shell into that PHP script, and were able to get a shell as Skunk. Once we were in as Skunk, we were able to do normal Linux enumeration and found out on step 2 that he could run composer, sudo no password, and a specific working directory. We found GTFObins exploit for that. We had to modify it slightly. We had to run the first part as dub-dub-dub-data, and then we ran the second part as Skunk, and we were able to get a root shell and cat out the flag. So, hope this video was useful. I hope you learned something. All the links that I use will be in the description below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just want to say hi, drop a comment. I'll be happy to chat with you. I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.